Good evening. This is Micaiah Jackson with the JFK Report. And tonight we have a lot to discuss. This is my first ever podcast. It's time to get it rolling. It's time to put America first, and it's time to save America. So, what we're talking about this evening, I got a few different topics. One, socialism versus communism, how it's all impacting the United States. Two, weaponizing the FBI against the United States. Three, the current state of America. And lastly, what we have to do to save America. So, if you know me, I study political science. I do my own independent research, my own reading. Communist Manifesto, Lenin. Well, my Lenin book's right here. Another Lenin book. This one's Frederick Engels. So, and you can see you got my library here. This is where I study, where I research, and where I work. And most importantly, the word from the good God, our gracious God, the Almighty, wisdom, love, grace, and miracles. And to start this off, I'm always going to start off with a Bible verse. Let's start with Proverbs 11:14. For lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors. It is time to bring God back in our nation. God needs to come back. Our schools, our way of life, our culture. Every great civilization has fell to taking God out of their lifestyle. Look at ancient Greek and Rome. They practiced Scientology. They practiced homosexuality. They took God out, and those nations fell. And we're seeing the exact same thing. And they practiced democracy. And in the United States, we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Democracy turns into mob rule. It turns into socialism. It turns into fascism. It turns into communism. It's what all the awful dictators used to get their agenda. So let's start off with the difference with socialism versus communism. It's clearly stated in the Communist Manifesto on page 6. Socialism was a middle class movement. Communism, a working class movement. Right there, just plain as day in page 6. So yes, I mean, socialism and communism, they're both just as bad. You don't want any of that because the state takes control. But with socialism, you're going to see more of a middle class movement, which we're seeing here in America. The white liberals are pushing this national socialism movement. It's no different than what we saw with Nazi Germany back in the 30s and 40s. And what makes it interesting now, too, is we're seeing fascism tactics as well. The government is getting involved with corporations, the unions, or airports. That is fascism. And fascism eventually turns into National Socialism. Let's look at the state of New York, and especially in New York City. They just fired hundreds to thousands of nurses out of their hospitals and their clinics, and they're replacing with National Guardsmen now. That is fascism. The government is intervening with public life and private life. That has to end. That is not the United States. What they're doing with these mandated vaccines, we're seeing government control, and we're seeing fascism take place here in our country when they're concluding with all these businesses and these corporations, and when the state's getting more controlled. That has to end. We, the people, are the ones who save this country. And we go back to the socialism movement. You know, you're seeing a lot of white liberals and a lot of these richer up middle class kids through college and after high school and everything. They want this national socialism movement. They want to overthrow our free market, even though we're more of a capitalism market right now being controlled, but we need to turn back to a free market. It's just the same tactics. What we're seeing is used exactly what Nazi Germany did. For instance, Hitler, when you went against the Nazi party, and even though you were a white German, but if you went against the party, you were labeled a Jew. It didn't matter if you weren't a Jew, if you weren't a gypsy, if you weren't gay. If you went against the party, you were going to be labeled a Jew and you're going to be thrown into a concentration camp. And he did the same thing to communists. So, what we're seeing now here in the United States is the exact same thing we saw in Nazi Germany. Instead of being labeled a Jew now, you're labeled a white supremacist, a racist. Just a month ago, LA Times did a hit piece on Larry Elder when he was running for governor of California. The black face of white supremacy. That is awful. That is trash. That needs to stop. It's no different than what the Nazis and what Hitler did with the Jews, labeling everyone a Jew that went against the party. And it's the exact same thing what we're seeing now. If you go against the liberal agenda and all their tactics, LGBT, critical race theory, pro-life, they're going to, or if you don't support any race or any of this, and you just want to be an American, you're labeled a white supremacist or a racist. It's no different than what Nazi Germany did under Hitler. And the thing is, with socialism and communism, it takes violence to get to that utopia that they always claim about, which it isn't. Look at the riots we've been seeing with BLM and Antifa. That's violent. A political revolution has been in our country for a while, and it's been in 2020. It was already on fire. It was on. We're in a Marxist revolution. It's three factions, three political factions. One, us, American nationalists that are God-loving, fearing people. We put God first. It's a Christian nation, and we're all about patriotism and nationalism as an American. We don't believe in fascism. We don't believe in socialism. We don't believe in communism. So that's us. Two, you have the National Socialist. They're trying to push this National Socialism movement. You see it all over the universities. Then three, then you got BLM, Antifa, and a bunch of millions of other Americans supporting communism. So we have American nationalist, National Socialist, and American communist all fighting to reach what they want. And right now, even though us Americans are gaining the foothold, the communists are winning right now. Look at our universities. They're taking over. We have government agencies doing communism tactics. This brings me to the FBI. The FBI has been weaponized. No different than what we saw in the Soviet Union with the KGB. They're spying on us. They're tapping on us. They're throwing away warrants. They're not following protocol. They're not following the Constitution or Bill of Rights. They're violating our civil rights and liberties. This is no different than the Soviet Union. Because even though the National Socialists, especially these white liberals, are pushing their huge agenda, the communists are winning. Because here's the thing. To actually achieve communism, you have to use socialism, even though they're both separate. Because the Soviet Union, the Soviet Socialist Republic. But even though they called themselves communists and commies. So it's when it comes to political theory and political philosophy, you could take different forms of it and form it your own. For instance, look at China right now. China is really heavy on nationalism, but they're communist. So they're a nationalist communist. They love their country, but they're communist. But what's making them thrive is they know after what happened with Mao and other countries that practice communism and socialism, they have to have a free market. So even though they have a free market to make all this money, the state's still in control. The state owns this. You got to pay this to the state. The state has to say what you sell, buy, trade, and what prices. So it doesn't matter which one you're going to get. You're going to get a dictator, and your government's going to be the big brother, and they're going to watch everything. They're going to control everything. They're going to control your life. They're going to violate your civil rights and liberties. It's all about big brother, and because of technology, it's making it so much easier for them. Technology is the propaganda in it, misinformation, getting to millions of young kids that are not understanding of the political world yet and indoctrinating them through movies, cartoons, commercials, and, as I said, propaganda. Socialism and communism. Lenin, it's all right here. It's all right here what you could do to overthrow a republic, a capitalism, free market society. Lenin laid it out on page 8. There's 8 things, not things, 8 steps or 8 priorities. Okay, 6 priorities. What to do to reach your communism control. 1, discord. 2, renegade. C, pornography. D, splits. E, depression. F, demoralization. And I think I was counting numbers first, and then I went to letters because I do a lot of homework and writing down notes, so apologize for that. But those 6 steps, it takes all of those to get your communism. And you know why? The reason why pornography's on here is because what he's talking about, you put this all in the political culture, then you get demoralized. Then the communists and your dictators and the ones that want to get to their fake utopia use this to get what they need. And you know, like I said, when it comes back to communism too, it's a workers' class movement. So and that's the other thing you got to remember with socialism and communism. Socialism is going to use the middle class. They're going to take care of the higher elites, the middle class, but the middle class is still going to suffer. But they're all going to pitch in. But socialism is not going to help the poor. It doesn't work that way. But when it comes to communism, everyone's just poor. You're owned by the state, no private property, because Hitler, with his National Socialism movement, he gave private property to the white Germans. They had private property. They had certain rights because, they were National Socialists. They believed in the tactics they had. But communism, say bye to everything. Food, property, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And it's just, if it's not the communist way, you're going to the gulag. And that's what we're seeing now in the United States with the FBI. For instance, what was it, last week? Justice Department addresses violent threats against school officials and teachers. The school board wrote to Joe Biden and the Department of Justice asking for help because Americans are standing up against the critical race theory and the Marxist indoctrination happening from kids anywhere from 4 years old all the way up to universities now. They're done with it. They're not getting an education. They're getting indoctrinated with Marxism, sex, gender, classes. You're a racist. If you don't do this, you're labeled a racist. I'm not comfortable because you're this sex or you're this color. It's teaching segregation and how to hate each other and to hate our God-loving country. So parents are standing up, letting their voices be heard. And these school board officials are not having it. They're not listening to the parents when the parents have to say. Read the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. We the people. You work for us, not the other way around. It's a weird time in the United States, but American nationalists are putting their foot down and we're gaining speed. The real mega movement is not ending. Mega is more than an idea. Mega is real. We're going to make America great again, and it's never going to end. Patriots and nationalists are coming together, and we're going to save this country and put God first and restore law and order. And we have to wipe out the FBI, the ATF, federal agencies. Everything needs reformed, recleaned, and even just abolished. Our rights as Americans are being stomped on. We're being laughed at by other countries. The FBI is more worried about soccer moms and football dads and peaceful protesters than actual violent people. Sex trafficking, drugs, murder, Antifa and BLM still rioting, doxing people. No, they're coming for you, an American patriot, a law-abiding citizen. It's disgusting. It's time to make this end. We have a First Amendment right for a reason, and we got to keep using that First Amendment right. Because the day is going to have to come when the Second Amendment comes in. But the Founding Fathers gave us the First Amendment right, so that day will not happen again. With the grace of God, it doesn't. It's time to unite as Americans and put this country back. America first. And the FBI agents that are hunting down these parents and law-abiding citizens that are peacefully protesting, you should be a damn ashamed of yourself. Call yourself an American and you serve for this FBI organization, you're ashamed. Put your clown mask on. We have to save America. The government is going against us. They're weaponizing every federal agency from local, state, to the national level. And you have people supporting it. They don't realize what's going on because they're brainwashed. They're in this cult mindset. But we're not going to lose. I have faith in this country. We have a Bill of Rights and the Constitution for a reason. But when you're reading through this, I was reading through this with the parents and protesting at school officials off their justice.gov. Threats against public servants are not only illegal, they run counter to our nation's core values, wrote Attorney General Garland. Okay. Let me get this straight. Parents are peacefully letting their voices be heard because school board officials are not listening to them and they're disrespecting them and violating their kids. But we have illegal aliens, illegal immigrants harassing sitting senators on the far left side in the public restroom on campus universities. And you're not going to investigate that? That's some serious bullshit. Everything's backwards in this country now. And this is exactly what communism does. And Lenin talks about it in this book. If you want to reach your goal, you have to take out the social chauvinists, the patriotic people that love their nation, that will die for this nation. People need to start reading books like this, man. They need to know the truth. They need to start teaching this back in kindergarten through high school. But we can't give up. We put God first. We take back our local communities, school boards, county commissioner, mayor, law enforcement, governors, state legislators. Start passing laws that protect America. We can't take care of the federal level until we take care of our communities first. When we take care of our communities first and more than half the states unite, we could take back the federal government and restore sovereignty in this nation and restore law and order under one true God. The FBI continues to hunt down peaceful protesters from January 6th. Your neighbor, your church buddy, your pastor, a sibling, people from social media are turning into Nazis. And they're turning you in just for peacefully protesting on the United States Capitol that's owned by we the people, funded by our tax dollars. But BLM and Antifa get to burn down black neighborhoods, destroy businesses, destroy communities for life. And nothing happens to them. Charges get dropped, a petty ticket, go on in their life and keep doing the same thing. Just look at Portland. America, this is not going to stop until you make it stop. And for conservatives, you have to wake up. You can no longer rely on the government. It's going to have to take you and your community to end this madness. Because it's only going to be a matter of time when these Marxist bastards come knocking on your door, asking for your vaccine passport and looking at your social media post. I mean, we've already seen, there's been videos out already of FBI agents going to American households asking about their social media. The government would love to strip away our First Amendment right. That First Amendment right, it's everything. It is there for a reason, to be the first one. And it's just being stomped on. It takes me to big tech, the censorship, deleting you, deplatforming you. This isn't America. This is the United States of socialism, trying to reach a communism dystopia. But there's nothing to fear. When you put God first, trust in your neighbor, and unite as a United States American, we will make this end and put America first and bring sovereignty back in this nation. Thank you for this. This is my first podcast, and it's only going to grow and get better from this. You know, I'm tired of what's going on, and people really need to understand more of political theory and political philosophy and the difference and how they correlate and how what we do to defeat them. We have a lot of steps to go through, but we're going to do it. And I love this country. I love every American. And we're going to put a stop to this socialism movement from the white liberals pushing National Socialism, the government pushing fascism. And we're going to end these communists in this country. There will be law and order, and you will be prosecuted. Thank you. Have a good night.